Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Total Sim Sports coverage of Week 9 of the European Sprint Pure Driving School Series, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier motorsport simulator. And joining me tonight, I'll introduce him in a minute. We've got the fantastic Seb Bosher-Williams with the ever-present stalwart Sean Cranleigh-Swash on cameras in the background. It should be a good race for you this evening. We've got a decent spread of a field tonight, Seb. How are you doing, and how are you feeling about this race?
Good evening, Chris. Yeah, really excited for this race. I've been let loose once again in the commentary box for another ESS session, so really looking forward to seeing the LMP1s and LMP2s tackle Maggots and Beckett's. I think tonight it's going to be great to witness them sort of push the limits and drive it on the limit. And I think this is, we were at Suzuka last week and the S's were really fun, but Maggots and Beckett's is just that little bit quicker. I think it's just going to be super cool to see them in action tonight.
Now, we've had fewer sign-ups tonight than we often see in this series, and do you think that's going to impact at all the racing we see? Because I think it leads to a slightly wider spread of abilities in the field, and we've got decent representation of all three classes tonight, so it'll be interesting, I think, to see exactly how that affects the racing.
That's a really good point you make, and I think it will impact the racing just a little bit. You're right, there will be slightly bigger gap between the iRacing and the drivers, and while we know that iRacing doesn't always match up to the driver's pace, it's usually quite a good representation of their pace in the car. So I think the racing might be a little bit more spread out than we saw last week at Suzuka, but it's Silverstone. There are loads of places to overtake, and draft is quite important around here. The three major straights with overtaking opportunities at the end of most of them. So I think the skill range might be wider, but I think the slipstream might just help us to have that close racing tonight.
It should be an excellent race, I think. There are, as you say, plenty of opportunities to overtake. And of course, in the background right now, we're following the number 4 of Silvera, currently third in the LMP2 class. We've got qualifying going on right now. We've got just over 3 minutes left with that, and then we can bring you the race. Of course, last week, as we mentioned, we were at Suzuka. The LMP1s were won by Simon Cowlarts, who is currently third in LMP1 for qualifying. That was a pretty straightforward win for Simon last week, which he's pretty used to on the weeks where it all goes well for him now. We've got our LMP2 winner from last week here again tonight as well. That is Claudio Greco. He is car number 6 tonight, so he's got a slightly stronger field than he did last week when he was car number 4. And one thing I think is slightly surprising is we've got no Roman Verdolivo, so that blows the GTE field slightly wider open. It's quite a small GTE field tonight as well. We've only got the 9 cars, which I think if you're in the massive LMP2 field, probably a bit of a relief, to be honest, because we've seen in the last couple of weeks quite a few, some would say egregious murders of GTEs from some of the prototype drivers, and these things happen, but hopefully they'll be a bit cleaner tonight. Although I know, Seb, last time you promised we'd have clean racing on Tuesday. That didn't transpire.
No, we didn't, and I'm firmly going to stay away from any issues to do with racing and cleanness today, because I really don't want to jinx anything at the moment. But what I will say is, I think you're right. I think the LMP, the prototype drivers will be pretty happy that the GT field is less, because while, as I was mentioning it, you can overtake here, and there are long straights. If you catch a GTE in the Maggots and Beckett's, especially if you're in an LMP1, it really hurts, and you're very tempted to make a move that ultimately will not end well for you by going around the outside or diving to the inside through Maggots and Beckett's. It's just a way of damaging the car and having an incident. So I think by having less GTEs, it will allow the LMPs to race closer and for it to be a little bit safer for them. But of course, it's really sad to see the GT field not as big as it could be, because that always provides just incredible racing.
Yeah, it certainly does, and we've got some incredibly talented drivers in the GT field. I mean, we've got Kerim Havertz, who is a 7K iRating driver, Dominic Arntz, who is merely 6,000 iRating. It's not as though we've got a weak GT field of those drivers remaining, and I'd be interesting to see if those two can have a bit of a battle. I mean, you can see on the timing tower, they're not separated by much time at all, so it would be good if we can see some tight racing from them, because we've been pretty spoilt this season, I think. In particular, I'd say Road America, we had some very tight racing, so hopefully we'll see more of that again. I seem to remember last season's Silverstone race being a little bit spicy at times. There was some interesting overtaking manoeuvres. I think coming out of turn 4, probably a bit bit, as you've mentioned earlier, in terms of the long straights. You want to wait until the end of the long straight, and it'll be interesting to see if people will be sensible tonight. So hopefully in a few seconds we can bring you the qualifying results as we come up to the end of the session and wait for the parade lap before we can get going. And yeah, it's interesting to see some of the drivers are missing tonight that we'd normally see. So we had used Balmeester in our Discord channel earlier, and there's an invite link to join that in the description of the YouTube video if you'd like to discuss the race with any of the other drivers tonight. He's down in 15th, so it'll be interesting to see if he can do the last to first challenge that I proposed he could try. But we've not got any of our other sort of stalwarts in LMP2. We're missing Bickley and we are missing Simner tonight, so it's a chance for someone else to hog the limelight. Seb, would you like to take us through the grid, which you've now got on screen?
I certainly will. Yes, so Jan Korbs takes pole position in the LMP1 class with last week's winner Simon Cowlitz just behind him, 3 turns behind him. Neil Debacker is in third with Jim Debacker right behind him in fourth place. Luke Santos is fixed with Dominic Englicht in sixth place and Alexander Gerber taking seventh and the final place in the LMP1 field. Moving down to the LMP2 field, we've got Bogdan Moldovan, who takes pole position with Dylan Freckleton right alongside him. Benjamin Chiara is in third with Marcel Berg in fourth, just alongside him. Very tight field there, just having a look. So Maximilian Woolmer is fifth with James Abraham in sixth place. Glazo Lorenzo is seventh with Jack Colville even right behind him in eighth. Felipe Silveira ninth with Pietro Schizento in 10th place. Jason Anderson in 11th with Alex Everett in 12th. Nick Brick is 13th with Jan Vitar in 14th. Jus Braumeister, who we were just talking about, starts from P15 with Marion Brabeck in 16th place. Round out our P2 field, we've got Brad Coleman in 17th, Yuri Mason in 18th, Ayrton Hurst in 19th, and Claudio Greco in 20th. And last, in your GTE fields, we're discussing a little bit light on the GTE front today. We have Karim Havitz, who has taken pole position there, with Dominic Arndt 3 hundredths of a second behind him, so watch for that battle in the race. Ruben in third behind him, with Alejandro Soto in fourth. Marco Risi in fifth, Giles Brookser in sixth, Neo Lacroix in seventh, Murray in eighth, and in ninth is the number 33 car. And take us away, Chris, as I think they're on their formation lap.
Yes, and mercifully we're starting at the end of Hangar coming into Stowe, so we don't have to wait 2 whole minutes for this race to get going. In fact, with the nature of the pit lane here, our pole sitter, Jan Korbs, is actually qualified. He can go pretty much whenever he likes, and I wonder if he'll wait until we get round the chicane. We have seen incidents in the chicane before, so watch out for the LMP2s. There's 920 of them racing today. And so Cowlart's tried to get the jump on him, but he would have got black flagged if he'd done that. And Korbs has got away. And so far, so good in LMP1. He gets tackle a corner, so let's see as they go into turn 1. Korbs leads him away. Englicht, it looks like, has got the jump on Santos in 5th, and that's the only change for position. Nice and tidy, but look how many LMP2s that is. It's like an entire race all on its own. But again, so far, so good. But turn 3, that's the one to watch out for. That's where we're going to likely see incidents. James Ibram's got the jump on Woolmuth already. And here is Just. He's trying to get through. He's looking for a move already. And that is Jan Vitvar getting the braking zone very wrong. And off he goes. Thankfully, doesn't look to have collected anyone. And it looks like the very small GT field so far. Nice and clean. Lots of Porsches today. In fact, we've only got Marco Ricci not in a Porsche. And let's go and have a look at the LMP2 battle. This is Bogdan Moldovan, and it's Dylan Freckleton, who's he's been lurking around the place, I think, for a while. It'll be interesting to see. Actually, Moldovan's already got a nearly 2-second jump. Is Benjamin Cower going to try and get past early to try and keep up with him as we go through Wicker and up to Copse? Not necessarily a place you want to go, as we saw last year in the F1 with Hamilton and Verstappen. Keeping it sensible so far. Freckleton looking nice, calm at the moment. And again, we're going to come into Maggots and Beckett's complex here. You really want to just line it up here for an attack down the Hangar straight, see if you can get something into Stowe. But Seb, so far, this has been almost concerningly clean.
That's indeed great opening lap. It's been really clean, good racing. Glad to see nobody went side by side through Copse there, as we were mentioning, with the F1 there. So people definitely learning. A little bit of action coming into Stowe, but everybody's wobbling over places very nicely at the moment. It was a really good start from the LMP1 as well. All clean through the chicane, just really good driving, and it's really nice to see. As somebody that's been racing IMSA at Knockhill, it's really nice to see a clean opening lap.
Yep, and Just Baumeister, who keeps saying he's not very good at this track, he's made up 2 places already, and a nice tidy overtake on Nick Burke there as well. Benjamin Cowra here, he's really looking racy behind Freckleton. In fact, he's going for the move around the outside here. Can he make the stick? He'll have the inside if he can get alongside, but unfortunately he can't. Vandenberg is right there to try and mop up any mistakes that he makes, but as it stands, everyone is going through one by one. No one's made a move yet. It's been really quite calm, although, again, Brad Coleman here, he's another one who's made up 2 spots. Looking for another one, he's got Just Baumeister ahead of him. So Burke's got back ahead of Baumeister. This is a tidy battle. This is only for 14th and 15th in LMP2, so it just shows you how much this means to the guys. But again, I think all of the damage was done on Tuesday's Total Sim Sport broadcast, because this is one of the cleanest starts to an ESS race I think I've ever seen.
It certainly is. It's really good to see, and yeah, some really great racing going on. The LMP2 is certainly really trying to still sort out all of their positions in class. What I noticed at the start is that Jan Korbs is in the Porsche. I don't think I've seen a Porsche quite recently in ESS. It's really nice to see the other LMP1. You almost think that LMP1 would be a single class, but no, we do actually have 2 different manufacturers. So can Jan Korbs take Porsche to a victory? It's going to be difficult because the Audi is significantly better with its ability to apply the boost, but the Porsche is better at regenerating it, and it can regenerate its electricity, its ERS on the straight. So really interesting battle developing here in LMP1.
Yep, and at the moment you've got the 3 drivers that have only got Curbs, Carolats and De Backer. They have dropped Gerber in 4th. He's 3 seconds down already, and Gerber is a quick driver himself. He'll be looking to try and get back some time. You can see how much he's pushing as he goes wide there onto the exit of Brooklands. But that's all that's going to do is cost him time. And you can see De Backer as well. He's pushing really hard. You don't want to lose out on having that draft. Gerber's obviously pushing very hard because he's up 3 spots from starting 7th on the grid. But yeah, it's as you say, I think that battle for the lead, that is going to be very spicy indeed, because I don't believe we've seen Neil De Backer win a race in the broadcast bit yet. He's definitely got the pace to do it, and all it's going to take is one mistake from Curbs or Cowlarts taking each other out, and he's got a clean run. But we've seen it before, these 3-way battles at the start of LMP1. They've yet to really last the whole race. I really would love to see that, if we can have a battle the whole race. But so far it does look like Cowlarts is just tucking in behind, just staying sensible, not making any rash moves too early as we come through into club. Looking very planted, but of course it's not going to be that much longer until they catch up with the GTEs and then the LMP2s. And Seb, I think the LMP1s getting through that giant LMP2 field is going to be a very tricky challenge tonight.
And it's especially difficult if you are in a 3-way battle, because all of a sudden moves that sort of 50-50, is talking about 50-50 moves, down the inside goes Simon Cowlarts as he's taken the lead. He has indeed. So Simon Cowlarts sees an opportunity from Jan Korbs there, and he's up the inside and onto the straight. Talk us through this, Chris.
Yep, I mean, it was very tidy to start with. It looked very much like Curbs had just given it up, but you can see he's using his boost there to try and get back past, to no avail. And Neil De Backer can just sit back and watch this and just see what happens. He's not losing out on any time just sitting back here. In fact, he can save a bit of fuel potentially. But yep, Cowlarts has taken the lead. De Backer now is just a 10th behind Curbs. But again, this is not necessarily the safest place to be making overtake as you come round just before Maggots and Beckett's. You just have to sit there, really. He's just looking. He really wants to get past. He's just nudging his nose out, but there's just too much time to be lost for them not going side by side here. You just got to wait for the hanger straight and see if you can get it done here. But it does look like Curbs, who's a very confident racer. He's just managed to open that gap up just a little bit. If anything, he's now closer to Cowlarts. So I think De Backer having to travel so close behind Curbs has potentially cost him there. And you can just see in the background, going onto the main straight, that's the back of the GTE field. So as you mentioned, this 3-way battle, having to get through the lap traffic, it's going to happen soon. And this battle we were looking out for in the GTE field, it's not happening. Havers, in just the first 7 minutes, has already dropped Arndt by nearly 3 seconds. And yeah, it's looking pretty calm for him. He's not really got a huge amount of competition in the field. I mean, there's already 12 seconds between the entire GTE field. Bear in mind, they've only been racing for 7 minutes, and it's not as many of them, although we do have a battle here between Bruxer and Leclerc. Bruxer has got that move done, and now Soto is going to look to take advantage as we're coming round here, and this is just out of Brooklands and Luffield. Bit of contact there. Soto's now got past, bit more contact there, really getting his elbows out, but the main beneficiary here is going to be Bruxer, who can just pootle off into the distance. He's already a second clear, and you can now see Greg Murray in the background. He's going to be able to take advantage as well. He's caught right up to Leclerc and Soto, and he's not going to have any damage to that car either, Seb, so this is potentially a chance for him to make some real hay.
It's a real valid strategy in official races, is just to hand back and let sort of people start, to get a little bit involved with each other, get a little bit of damage, as we now see the LMP1 field sort of diving through this battle onto the grass there. Simon Cowlett so close to losing the car and sort of spinning. I think we saw Brendan Hartley do something quite similar here a few years ago in the real WEC race, but it's really surprising to see the GTE driving sort of wheel to wheel and really hitting each other. So yeah, getting their elbows out already. We've still got 51 minutes, almost 52 minutes. Wow. Jim DeBacker there.
That looked very stressful for Jim DeBacker there, with a netcode just sort of making the GT disappear briefly. But the battle now between Coleman and Burke is lighting up. And Coleman's up 6 places, so he's sort of very sneakily snuck up the grid. And we're going to hopefully have a replay here of an incident we've seen. So this is Jack Colville in the LMP2. He's running at the back with Pietro Schettino now in the number 21. And yep, I've just come together a bit in the vortex of danger there. Seb, I'd call that a racing incident. I don't know how you feel about that.
I will it too. I think they both sort of drifted towards each other. They drifted towards each other. Brooklands is one of those corners we see more successful move into Brooklands, but yeah, I think you're racing. I think you want to squeeze the guy towards the inside, but he was entitled to his room. Yeah, racing incident. They sort of both come off. I mean, they had a really nice in-tandem spin there, so there must be some style points that we can award them. I don't know if iRacing is based on style points, but it really should be, because that was fairly beautiful.
They should replace safety rating with style rating, and I think we'd see some very interesting broadcasts going forward. But we can flick back here to Dylan Freckleton, who is still defending from Benjamin Cowra, and we've got a bit of a train forming here, actually, because you've got Ibram, Vandenberg, Walmers, Lorenzo and Silvera not far behind, and you can see Moldovan he's cracked out a 6.5 second lead. He'll be very pleased with Freckleton here. But of course, Freckleton, he's not going to want to give up P2, and he's got the pace. It's just Cowra at the moment seems to really think he should be ahead of him, but he's yet to be able to make that move stick, because these are both very talented drivers, and Cowra's got Ibram to worry about behind him. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what ends up happening here, because of course the other problem for Freckleton is that if Freckleton gets past here, you've suddenly got the rest of the field trying to get past him as well. It's actually
I thought he was going to do that too, Chris. Around the outside of Maggots and Beckett's. I mean, crazy things have happened on broadcasts.
Well, Freckleton's obviously got more composure than the both of us, because he didn't fall for that at all, and he's just keep going. Although again, Cowra is looking for the move. Freckleton, he's just moved that car over, not all the way to defend, just to sort of put Cowra in 2 minds. Cowra's gone to the outside as we come to the end of the hangar straight, but you're not going to get a move done unless you're alongside there. And Freckleton lives to fight another day, but you can see with his car placement, he's definitely thinking about defending, and he's really slowing up the rest of the field. I mean, so the last lap completed before this one, he was nearly a full second slower than Moldovan, and we'll see as they come across the line how much that's changed over this lap, and again over a second this lap. So this is really working out for Bogdan Moldovan in the lead of the LMP1 field, 2 field. He can just relax, and he possibly even save a bit of fuel while in the lead, because it's all coming up Millhouse for him.
It is, and I think what's happening with Cowra there is that when you're behind another car, you always tend to feel a little bit quicker, because you can see when they're braking, and you can brake, just a little bit afterwards. You can follow their lines, and of course you've got the slipstream. So I wonder if he was managed to get past Freckleton, how much quicker he actually would be, and whether he needs to stop doing all of these sort of dives and sort of moving under braking, trying to go around the outside of Maggots and Beckett's and just settle down and do what I think Moldovan will be doing out in the lead, and just take it easy, fuel save, and try and play the long game here, because it's not really benefiting anybody. And actually, we're talking about that gap was closing. I mean, Ibram is now on the back of this fight now. And you've got, many other people, Marcel Vanderberg as well, really close to this battle. And at this point, if he goes for a move and it doesn't end up, he's going to be losing, could be sort of 3 or 4 places. So I think he really needs to calm down and just fuel save and try and get Freckleton in the pit stops.
Yeah, it does actually look like everyone is settling into that pattern now. I think they're all just happy. Just see how this race unfolds. We've got plenty of time left. It's a nice sunny day. You can enjoy your day out at Silverstone. It's a lovely area of the country. It's almost like they're going for a Sunday drive at this point, and yet you almost forget these guys are topping out at nearly 300 kilometres an hour as we see this three-way battle in GTEs. It's heating up. We've got Brooks, Soto and Leclerc. At the moment, we've got Brooks in the lead, and we've got Leclerc, Soto going side by side. Who is going to be the beneficiary of this? Leclerc's got the inside, but it just looks like Soto's got better traction on the outside. Can he keep it on the track? And is he going to be able to take advantage of that slipstream as they're very much trusting each other as we come round here just out of Woodcote and then up towards Copse? Again, no one looking for that move into Copse, which is just a little bit sensible right now. But again, this is the trouble you get in these three-way battles. As Just Baumeister, it looks like, has made a move on Coleman. Coleman's dropped a few places, so I wonder if something's happened to him. He was up a couple. Brabak's got past him as well. And earlier, I think a few laps ago, Nick Burke has got past him too. Brabak is actually the person who's made the most overtakes now. He's up 4 places from his starting position. It's sort of flying a bit under the radar. And I think Nick Burke has re-put his rig together, so he's changed his setup, and perhaps he's just led to 1 or 2 mistakes maybe where, situations ever so slightly different. I don't know about you, Seb, but us sim racers, we need our consistency.
Oh, certainly. I mean, if I change the setting on my brake pedal, I'll struggle. I mean, the whole rig changing, I mean, like if you put it back together and in a slightly different seating position, I can't imagine it would just be awful. I mean, remember in the WEC, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the first one, it's Simon Pagenaud changed his rig. It sort of reminds me a little bit like that. But we've got this 3-way battle here, this time for P2 in LMP1. Yeah,
Cowlarts is again, he does this as soon as we hit traffic. Cowlarts has flown away. He knows how to deal with the traffic perfectly. Curbs is really struggling now in the Porsche, and Gerber's got past Neil de Backer, and he's got Jan Curbs in his sight as well. Is he going to be able to take advantage of this traffic as we get past? There's the number 31 of Aiton Hurst. This is the back of the LMP2 field, and we've not really lost anyone in the LMP2 field, so it's still a pretty big field to have to try and get through while you're in your own battle. And this is such an awkward part of the track to catch up with him. If we go on board with Neil de Backer, he's got a car on the inside of him here. He's come around turn 4, so he can't even really take advantage of the apex there. Get that boost down. You can see there the acceleration. Desperately trying to get past the LMP2 on the inside there. Well, that's the number 14. And that's without the boost. It's just not that easy. And he has eventually managed it, but that's thanks to some reasonably sensible driving from number 14. That's Dylan Freckleton. So this is where the tactics is all going to come in, and again, you've got to be very brave there and trust that the LMP2 is going to see you. And yeah, Neil de Backer's getting through, but you can see Alex Gerber is almost clearing off already. Although, again, it does depend on what happens here with another LMP2. You're clearing just before you get to Magus and Beckett's, because otherwise you're not going to have a good time trying to do the traffic there. Steph, I don't know how much experience you've got dealing with traffic at Silverstone in particular, but how much of a challenge can it be?
It's a huge challenge, and just watching the LMP the one footage, it really is bringing back memories of doing the same. And it's so tricky because you, as an LMP1 driver, you almost think that the GTE should have as much grip as you, and it sounds kind of daft when you say it, but it is kind of true that you're just so used to being able to go almost flat through Copse that you expect the GTEs to. So when you get behind them, and all of a sudden they have to sort of downshift and double the brakes to get the car in, it can really surprise you. So it is really tricky around here. And for even corners like this coming through turn 1 of Abbey, and then sort of this sort of like turn 2. I mean, in an LMP1, you don't think about it; it's flat. In a GTE, it's a really tricky corner, and you can so easily be caught out you could be so caught out by it. So it's really tricky as an LMP1 driver. What I am noticing is the differences in the LMP1s at the moment. The Audi much better on acceleration. That's where its hybrid is really strong. It's that initial boost of energy, but the Porsche just manages just to stretch that advantage down the straight. So if Gerber wants to get past Corbs at the moment, he needs to do it on the initial acceleration and sort of he'd have to be sort of alongside him before they get to a corner. And I think on a long straight, I think the Porsche's got a little bit of an advantage at the moment.
Someone who does seem to have slightly benefited from the traffic is Dylan Freckleton, who's managed to get a little bit of breathing space from Cowher at the moment. But as we've seen this every week, around this 18 to 20 minute mark, this is when all three classes are occupying the track, and you can see just how many cars here are coming up to the hangar straight. And again, like we were saying, you don't want to be catching people on Maggotts and Beckett's. This is where you want to be catching. You can see the track map on there. We've got no one in basically 2/3 of the track. They're all occupying this 1/3. So it's kind of amazing, really. We've not seen any retirements, although Claudio Greco didn't make the grid. He's the only person not still in the running, but I'm sure we're going to see some chaos sooner rather than later. But a testament to the driver's skill that so far everyone's been dealing with it pretty well. And Jan Kurb's getting a bit lucky there with GTE traffic, and he's just managed to get a bit of breathing room himself from Gerber, but actually not really. Gerber's caught straight back up and is potentially looking for a move even. But again, it's like you say, Seb, he's going to have to do it not on the long straights. It's finding the opportunity and maybe using some of this traffic, which you can see some of the LMP2s beginning to find it a bit of a struggle to get past without sacrificing their position. Silvera here very nearly having to give it up to the 26 of Englicht, so that's not even for the same class. That was very patient actually from Englicht to make sure that there wasn't an incident there, because you know he's got a lot more pace in the tank. And it's been a pretty quiet race for Englicht so far. We've not really seen a huge amount of him. He started 6th, he's still in 6th. It's only Luke Santos behind him, who we saw had that slight moment on the first lap. And yeah, I think he's just waiting to see if he can pick up any of the carnage, because he's only really 8 seconds off this battle between Kurbs and Gerber, which is getting very, very close now. But we've not really seen Gerber go for the move. But Seb, if he's going to go for it anywhere, potentially out of the hangar straight here, this might be a good place to go for it.
I think it is, and the Audi should be, in theory, better through Maggotts and Beckett's than the Porsche, or at least when I was sort of driving this car every week, it tends to be better in the high speed. So you'd expect here, maybe even down towards the chicane, using a little bit of traffic as well. There's sort of a slow LMP or GTE on the outside that you can kind of use just to almost distract the driver ahead, and you can sort of dive down the inside. There's a lot of strategy that goes into LMP1 driving, as we see there. Neil de Backer getting pushed very wide in the final corner there by a GTE. I think he chose a little bit of the wrong side there, but so easily done in these cars. And I mean, for me, this is why I love LMP1 racing, because it's so strategic and you have to be thinking so quickly, and you have to make split-second decisions that really will impact your race, and you don't really get anything like it anywhere else. And it always brings a smile to my face, especially when you see all three classes on track at the same time on the same straight, and they're all battling for position. It's truly special, and I just love multi-class racing for it.
Yeah, as a predominantly Formula open-wheel driver, Silverstone's a very different proposition when you've got different paced cars to deal with. You see Jan Witvar here, he's looking to make the move on Yuri Mason while going past the GTE. He's taken the outside as we come into, this is Brooklands and Luffield, I believe, but it's just got cut off by the GTE. That's nobody's fault. The GTE has to go somewhere, and he's obviously entitled to run his own race. But what looked like a promising overtaking move for Jan Witvar there, he's going to have to wait his turn as we come up through Woodcote, up towards Copse. Is he going to be able to get the run out of Copse and then Maggotts and Beckett's to look at maybe making that move onto the hangar straight? Because he certainly seems to have a slight pace advantage over Mason at the moment. Mason running quite wide into Copse. That will be an off track, but of course you've got 16 of those to play with before you get a drive through, so you can afford to just push that a little bit harder if you think it's going to give you the advantage. But you can see how much more tight Jan Witvar's lines are through Maggotts and Beckett's. He's much more confident, but this time out it looks like Mason's got enough straight line speed to keep him behind. And yep, Jan Witvar, you're not going to be able to make a lunge into the hangar straight. It's not a heavy enough braking zone. But just want to draw your attention to, look at the gap between Cowlarts and Corpse now. It's 5.5 seconds. We see this every week. Cowlarts is out in front. If he can get a little bit of traffic in his way, that gap that he will have, he can just extend it. It's really, really impressive to see just how well you can deal with the traffic. And maybe it just goes to show, Seb, that you don't necessarily have to have raw pace. It's like you're saying, that strategic mind, sometimes that is more of benefit than raw pace.
It is, and whenever you go into an ESS practice session, and especially in the LMP1s and LMP2s, you can do as many hot laps as you want. But if you're not confident through traffic, and if you don't know where's good and where it isn't to overtake, you will just, you will lose time. Like, you can be as quick as you want over one lap, but it is that consistency. And I think Cowlitz has got the pace, but he also has that crucial ability to go through traffic. And I think Etten Hurst is in the pit, so I think he's had a little bit of an incident out there, and this might be our first retirement, although just by my timing tower, he has just come back out onto the pit. So let's have a look at this, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it is potentially an incident, but I thought he had towed to the pits, but then he was only stopped for 18 seconds. That's slightly odd. Maybe there was a mechanical issue, maybe there was some hardware failure. He's actually jumped out the car, so I suspect something's gone wrong there, or he's just got fed up and left. He was running all right, Etten Hurst, and this is what happened to Alex Everett, who, considering he's had an off and very nearly collected an LMP2 on entry, there was a bit of contact there. It was very light, but Alex Everett now running in 14th. He's down 2 from where he started, and he's heavily involved in the Mason Vitvar battle now. In fact, you can see there, Mason looking like he's trying to get past and potentially getting slightly blocked off. This is now a 4-way battle with Pietro Schettino involved too. And Mason, it looks like, is going for it, but that door is closed. And it's just opened it for Jan Vitvar, taking it around the outside, inside into the next corner. Are they going to give each other enough room coming to the final corner? Oh, just about. Vitvar ever so slightly nudged away, and is Schettino now going to try something into turn 1? It's not really a traditional overtaking spot. It will be turn 3 where they'll be looking for going somewhere. Mason running slightly wide into 2. Does anyone brake late? Schettino brakes very late, very, very assertive. I think assertive might even be a polite way of putting that, but he's got the position off of Vitvar, who half a lap ago looked like he was going to be ahead of both of these guys and potentially Everett, and now he's at the back.
Yeah, that was don't really have the words to describe that move from Schettino there. That was a very, very aggressive, I think I'll put it. What's happened here? Oh, that's going to be a very late move. Freckleton down the inside of Chiara. Oh, contact. That's a shame.
I think we've already seen the sort of minor version of that incident quite early on, and I mean, I'm as James, our wonderful commentator who's moved on to bigger and better things, as he will attest to, you often see that happen, and we've just seen it happen again. I am the worst fence sitter for this, though. I don't want to blame anyone, but it's sort of, if you go too wide there, what do you sort of expect to happen? But equally, Freckleton perhaps could have left a little bit more room, but Cowra was understeering out into him. Seb, I don't know how you feel about that one.
I think it's when you put your car in that position, I think it's inevitable that you'll be spun around like that. It's a real shame, and I mean, we've been watching that battle earlier, and that battle has been really, really close. And I think you're right. I think it was bound to happen. And it's lucky for Freckleton that it doesn't look like he's had any damage from it, and he's still in second. But yeah, I think it was a racing incident. But I think if you had to apportion blame, I think Chiara would just have a little bit more blame.
Freckleton's actually lost the place to James Ebram, who is up to second. I don't think he would have expected that 2 or 3 minutes ago. We can potentially go and have a look at that in a minute. But you can see Gerber's caught right back up to curbs as well. This is Michael Etienne, who's running at the back of GTEs. So it looks like he's had an off track. This might be why he's running at the back. And I expect to see that happen a bit more later on into the race as we get warmer tyres, lighter cars. And this is the James Ebram overtake on Dylan Freckleton. So, it looks like Freckleton is struggling a little bit there. You can see the traction control kicked in a little bit there. Just a little bit of oversteer on the exit of the corner, just putting on the power. And James Ebram with a quite unexpected P2. But Alexander Gerber has pitted. So I presume this is tactical rather than any sort of need. It doesn't look like there's been any coming together. It is certainly early for the pit window, but I am a lover of alternate strategies. So if this works for Alex Gerber, perhaps he feels like Jan Kurbs was holding him up, but not so much that he could make the pass easily. Seb, how do you feel?
I think it was. I think Gerber's played quite a good idea here. I think if you can't get past the car ahead on raw pace and you have that pit stop, it does allow you to come in. And why not try it? I mean, if you don't think you're going to get past, there's no real loss in trying the alternate strategy, pitting earlier and sort of doing the undercut, as it were. This battle, though, is incredible at the moment. I mean, they're so close together and no contact as of yet. I say that as they go into the very deep braking zone of club, so probably shouldn't have been saying how clean it was until after we get past the very challenging, shall we call it, the final chicane. But I'll be having a look at Gerber's lap times and seeing if he is quicker than Jan Korb's. And you never know, he could maybe just pip him. And it's one of the advantages of having a long race with a pit stop, because it does allow you to have these really interesting strategies.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it pays off from there. This battle is getting very intense. You wouldn't think it was just for P15 in LMP2, but Schettino with a slightly more reasonable braking marker in turn 3 that time. He is looking very racy, though. He looks very much like he wants to get back past Mason. Of course, Schettino did qualify in 10th, so he has dropped down. I think he was involved in an earlier incident, and he'll be really desperate to try and get past that. He'll feel like he's out of position, but again, we've seen him be very aggressive on the brakes. He's not really in a part of the track, as it looks like Mason's gone to defend or potentially let him through. No, he's actually defended. But are they now going to go are they going to go side by side into Magnus and Beckett's? This will be interesting. Will they keep it together? Is someone going to blink? They're still too wide. Oh my god. Oh my god, Steb, I can't believe that they're all still alive. And I imagine Jan Vitvar's in the background cursing his luck that no one's died here. But actually, Schettino made the pass stick. But is Mason going to be able to get back on him? Because he'll have the draft and the better exit. But Mason hasn't really been able to get... He's alongside, but it's... Yep, Schettino has managed to get through. Is Vitvar going to be able to take advantage? He's on the outside, but that will become the inside after the chicane. But... no, Mason quite confident on the brakes there, but this is allowing Jack Colville back into the battle. So, and he's another one who's out of position, having dropped 10 places. So this is going to be a very interesting battle. But Alex Everett, who we saw have that spin, he's actually cleared off because of how hard these guys are battling. Mason now defending for his life, but Vitvar, it looks like, is on the inside. Oh, a little bit of elbows out, a bit more elbows out. Now they're actually just hitting each other. And is Jack Colville going to be able to go anywhere with this? No, because there is not enough width on the track. Schettino will be laughing as he sees this in his rearview mirrors, because he's clearing them now as well. Mason is in the lead for now. They are now having a bit of afters on voice chat in game. They're going to go 3 wide now as we come into Brooklands. And Mason is the winner out of this, but he's gone wide. Colville, is he going to get 2 places in 2 corners? He's looking very confident around the outside here, is Colville in the number 36. But Mason has got better drive out, and this battle continues. We're going to see another potential overtake into Copse here. They're so close. You wouldn't even really want 2 cars to be this close to each other. Vitvar's gone for the move into Copse. Has he made it stick? They very nearly touch. You can get away with a little bit of contact. Voicing his displeasure with his headlights. And for the first time in over a lap, Seb, we've got a little bit of breathing room with these guys.
Oh, incredible, Chris. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you didn't collapse there. That was incredible racing. I mean, Schettino, I mean, amazing move around the of Magnus and Beckett's. I mean, I would never have expected to see a GTE do that, but not LMP2. I mean, that's crazy racing, and how nobody really made massive contact there and spun off into the wall is a massive guess. It's great. Oh, so Mason's coming to the pit, so he's sort of had enough of that battle. Would quite like to survive the race and is coming to the pits, and even more battling going out on track.
Yeah, and Vitvar and Colville still going at it. You've got to think, for some of these drivers have got to put their thinking hats on, because they're in the pit window now, and you can see the gap to Schettino and also the gap to Alex Everett, bearing in mind they were both head-to-head with these guys just a few laps ago. If someone had pitted, they wouldn't have lost all this time, and now are they going to get out of the way of Simon Cowlark? So they've actually been pretty good with that, and actually it looks like Jack Colville in the background's gone very wide. Something may have happened to him there. And it looks like, yeah, that has ended this really quite intense battle for what is only 13th. And Schettino's got past Everett now. So has Everett had an issue potentially, because they weren't exactly that close to each other. But let's have a look at Benjamin Cowra, who was in third at one point, desperately trying to get past Dylan Freckleton. Didn't manage it, had that contact coming into Brooklands. He's now stuck behind this battle with Felipe Silveira. Vandenberg's just got past Dylan Freckleton. In fact, they're still battling. Freckleton's back on the inside here, trying to get that position back. And he should not be able to make it stick. He's going to go for the switchback, but not really able to make it move. And Silveira's now having a bit of a dig about losing time in the battle. And you can see here, Cowra has got past him. But again, Seb, we're saying with strategy here, really some of these guys should be just looking at pitting early to get themselves out of these battles.
Yeah, I was really surprised that we didn't see Freckleton just dive into the pits, you know, sort of accepting that the place is lost for now, diving into the pits, grabbing some fuel, letting the tyres cool down a little bit, come out of the pits and try the undercut. I'm really surprised. Yeah, I was expecting to see, you know, many people head down the pit lane just to get out of this battle, because you've got a real cluster of different classes on track at the moment. And I think, who was it? It was Jack Colville. I think he'll be a little bit regretting not following Mason into the pits, because he lost a lot of time with Cowlitz getting past him there. And it just goes to show that actually sometimes pitting earlier and just getting out of the traffic and doing your own race can be really beneficial. And I think unfortunately for Jack Colville, he is a victim of that, and I'm surprised to not see him in the pits again, because I think Mason's played a little bit of a blinder here at the moment.
Yeah, it probably was a good decision. It's got him in a bit of clear air. We can look at his lap times. I mean, obviously, he's just done a 2:26 because he pitted. But if you look at what, say Joost Bouwmeester, he's a good yardstick for how quick you need to be. He's lapping the mid 146s, so it'll be a good idea to keep out. If Yuri Mason can be managing to do that, then we know that pitting early was a good decision just to take yourself out of that battle, because compared to Jack Colville, who did a 149.5, or Jan Vitvar with a 147.2, we're going to go to Marian Brabeck now, because again, look, we've got a very busy section of the track here. Brabeck trying to get on the inside of Nick Burke into the exit of Hangar. Burke's left a little bit of room for him there, but he's going to have the inside line for the braking zone into the chicane. Bouwmeester's going into the pits, so maybe let's not look at his lap times as a yardstick, because it's going to be also influenced by the pit lane. But again, Simon Cowlarts as well, as you can see, is into the pit. So Jan Curbs is going to inherit the lead, but with that being a 6-second gap before the pit stops, I suspect he doesn't need to worry unless Cowlarts has got any damage from any incidents, but I don't believe we've seen any. Gerber is about 40. His pit lane time was 45 seconds. He was stopped for 15. So we'll compare that to Cowlarts, who he is just coming to the end of his stop. Cowlarts stopped for just 13 seconds. Now, of course, he'll have to take on less fuel because he's stopping far later into the race. But we'll have to see exactly where he comes out in relation to Gerber, because we can sort of read into. In fact, Gerber is, I believe, 9 seconds behind Cowlarts, maybe a bit less because the timing screen just tries to cope with the fact that Cowlarts has come out the pit lane. But based on where Cowlarts is versus where Curbs was, it looks like Curbs does have that buffer. We know how quick Curbs can be on his outlaps and his inlaps, so perhaps this Gerber early pit strategy isn't going to work out for him, Seb.
I think it has. I was just looking at his lap times, and his recent laps have been quicker than Jan Corbs, who is currently leading. But I think his outlap his current pace, sort of when it's not traffic affected, I think Corbs is a little bit quicker. So I think Gerber has rolled the dice, and I don't think it's worked out yet for him. But of course, the proof is in the pudding, and I do know that the Porsche used to have slightly slower pit stops than the Audi. I'm not sure if it still does. Unfortunately, I haven't really raced these cars too much this season, so I can't give the real insights as I could maybe a few seasons ago. But it used to be the case that the Porsche was slower in the pit stops. It was slower to take on fuel, so maybe that's going to come into consideration. We'll have to have a look at.
Yeah, and Curbs looks like, again, affected by traffic. I'll have to see if this is going to be a problem, potentially as well with, as you're saying, his slightly longer pit stops, although again, he is staying out longer, so he's not going to have to put quite so much fuel into that car. And as you can see on the track map there are quite a few LMP2s that he'll be catching up with within the next lap or two. It might be worth, just to avoid having to deal with all that traffic, just coming in this lap, although he may be catching up too quickly, because you can see there's a big gaggle of them there. It's James Ebram, Vandenberg, Freckleton, Lorenzo, Walmuth. And even I think Silvera Anderson, it's not really a battle so much anymore, but they're all within a second or so of each other, which just means you're not really going to get the clean air that you need to try and put those quick laps in. You need to avoid losing out. Who in this case it will be Alex Gerber, who is back up to 4th, because it's just Curbs and Neil Jim DeBacker, sorry, that are yet to pit there. This is the closest battle on the track at the moment. This is Gilles Bruxer in 5th in GTE, and Alejandro Soto, who are within a quarter of a second of each other, but not looking quite as racy with each other as some of the other drivers are. Do you think that they're just being a bit more cautious because they know they're in traffic and they know there's more to lose in a slightly smaller field size, perhaps?
I really think they are. It's certainly good GT driving, and of course most of these drivers are recognised from endurance races, so they know how to sort of get their head down, stay out of trouble, and just lap. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. And I think in the final 10 minutes, I think we'll see the action sort of heat up again in the GTE field. What I thought was really interesting is Jan Korbs didn't come into the pits again, so he has decided that he wants to go through this traffic. He doesn't want to pit yet. Jim DeBacker has decided just to come into the pits. Cowlot's now in second, 5 seconds behind Korbs, so Korbs is almost guaranteed to lose the position. I'm sorry, it's just updated. It's 23 seconds. I think the timing screens on my end were a little bit wrong there, so that makes a little bit more sense. So Cowlot's 23 seconds behind. He's now got to go through all of this traffic. Gerber is 30 seconds behind, so it's going to be really nip and tuck about who comes out in second place.
Yep, and we've had most of the LMP2 field deciding to come in on lap 20 or 21, but the current top 5, they've all stayed out a little bit longer. That's Ibram, Silvera, Brabec, Schettino and Vitvar. It'll be interesting to see if just being able to stay out a bit longer is going to help any of these. You can see Simon Cowlarts, he's still setting these lap times. He's still going round. He just looks so in control of that car. I mean, they all are super talented drivers, but I don't think I've ever, and I'm going to jinx him here, and I apologise, Simon, in advance, but I don't think I've ever seen him make a mistake even. At the moment, he's got clean air, so it'll be interesting to see if that does happen. And again, I apologise if it does it. Jan Korbs has now pitted. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens with that. Cowlarts, we're not concerned about where Korbs comes out from his perspective. He's got easily a 5-6 second gap. Is he going to go for the lap traffic on the inside? Here he is. That's sensible driving. Again, he just looks so in control of that car. Jan Korbs is not pulled into his pit stall just yet. He'll be stopped for a good 10 to 15 seconds once he is. He's stopped now. Gerber, he's in 3rd. He is just coming round, I believe, outside hangar. Yep, here he is in the chicane. Korbs is still stopped in his pit stall. It's a slightly long stop. It's 12.72 seconds. That is quicker than Gerber. This is going to be extremely close. Of course, don't forget. Oh, it's actually not that close. There you go. It's already come out. It's because the pit exit is obviously quite a bit. You've got the inside line effectively. So we've built up something that it turned out it's not need. That the fast Korbs was on a purple final sector, but of course it is again. It's a bit of a shortcut, the pit entry at Silverstone, but this battle isn't over really, Seb. I mean, 3 seconds is a gap, but we've seen pace from Gerber before, and Korbs is quick himself, but you know, we could still see a race here.
Yeah, you really could, and Gerber will be on a little bit less fuel than Korbs, I think, or at least Gerber will be acclimatised to having more fuel in the car. And don't underestimate that. You know, if you're running on sort of very little fuel, it's like quali laps, and then all of a sudden you add sort of like 50 kilos to the car. It really does make a difference to the handling. So we'll have to see what's happened. So Moldovan even is in 12th, so he's pitted, but has he had some sort of issue?
Yeah, it looks like, so he was stopped for over a minute and he was in the lead, don't forget. He's down 11 places, he's in 12th because he's battling with Schettino. And yeah, but that couldn't surely have been an incident with another MP2 because he had such a big gap. But this just goes to show you that, you know, the race is far from over just because you have a 7 to 10 second lead. And James Ibram, who at one point was down in 4th and didn't really look like he was in contention for the win here, he's now got his 2.5 second gap. He's comfortable in the front here, but Frackleton and Wolmuth now having a battle. Frackleton on the inside as we come into Stowe. These two are battling with each other. This is going to really play into the hands of Jason Anderson 6 seconds down the road. He'll be desperate to try and make some more places up, and Marion Brabec as well, who he's the biggest gainer in the entire field. He's up 7. He started 16th. He's now in 9th. And he's having quietly a very solid race, is Marion Brabec. He actually had one of the quickest stops, certainly of the drivers around him. And he did make the fuel last 1 lap longer, and it's really worked for him, Seb.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, yeah, we're seeing some real movers and shakers in the LMP2 field. Of course, Bogdan, the biggest loser out of that, down 11 places. I think James Ebram there in first place at the moment wouldn't be expecting to be there. We were talking, about that battle with Freckleton in Cowler, a few laps ago, and that actually was for the lead. And Ebram did a great job just to get past them, run his own race, and that's granted him the class lead at the moment. So very interesting. I think Brownmeister has actually gone off track, so there might be some action heading on. There's quite a lot of move. Oh, LMP2 sort of down the inside. Oh, and that's quite a lot of damage on that car would be, because that was a few nasty hits to the side of that car.
Yeah, that was Nick Burke involved as well. That was the number 30 that went through. Not much he could have done there. That's Euston's race ruined. That was the number 28, Gilles Brooks there in the GTE. And we did quite well to make it 43 minutes into the race before we had a completely unavoidable incident. But it's such a shame to see. But, it's we say it every week, it feels like. Tired drivers, the loop is a very difficult corner, especially in multi-class. It's a bit of a blind apex. And let's not forget, there's drivers, some of us are on single screens. I, for one, on a single screen, have always had to guess at where the apex is there. So again, this is me sitting on the fence. James is probably screaming into his screen now, telling me to make a decision. But Baumeister, it looks like he's out of the race, and we're beginning to lose some LMP2s. In fact, LMP2s are the only cars that have retired. Burke's gone into the pits, Coleman's gone into the pits as well, so it looks like he was tangled up. Moldovan as well, he'd lost out to Schettino, so I wonder if whatever damage that Moldovan had hasn't actually been fully fixed, and Schettino's actually back up to where he started, so it's been a reasonable recovery drive from him. As we get past Marco Ricci, flying the flag for the non-Porsche GTE. He's the only driver to not be in a Porsche in the GTE field, so Marco, you are a hero for today. And in the gorgeous factory livery in the number 18 there, and yeah, he's had a pretty. This is the sort of the trouble with slightly smaller fields, Seb, I would say, in that he started 5th, he's still in 5th, he's not really got any drivers around him. An hour of Silverstone's not necessarily that fun if you haven't got cars to battle with.
I think you're right. I mean, it's a great track to race on, but yeah, if you're just lapping, it can get a little bit dull. And yeah, I just want to echo what you were saying. Congratulations, Marco Ricci, for being the only non-Porsche. It is really nice to see some different cars in the GTE class, because yeah, it's sad to see the Porsche be so dominant at the moment, but it's just so much better over the wall at pace. I think the balance of performance is a lot closer on sort of the multi-lap runs, the race runs, but the Porsche is just, it's almost like 8/10 quicker on its first lap at some tracks. It's kind of crazy, but it's really, really good to see some different manufacturers in GTE, and hopefully, as we go into next season, that we can see some more shapes in the GTE field, because there are some really lovely cars.
Oh, for sure. And this Brabec-Anderson battle looks like it's beginning to heat up. They're within half a second of each other, but further up the field, you've got Felipe Silveira. It's his turn to be the head of a long train of LMP2s. You've got Lorenzo, Freckleton, Wolmuth and Cowra behind him. And we know how quick Cowra can be. Freckleton really not having the easiest of races. He just seems to be dropping very slowly down the field. Now he's in a bit of a sandwich of drivers here with Lorenzo and Wolmuth in between. And you almost wonder if when he was in second, maybe his one-lap pace isn't quite the same as his race pace, although it's easy for us to criticise someone who is in 5th in top split ESS, because there's still going to be a lot of pace to have to be even 5th in this size LMP2 field. But at the moment, everyone does seem to be settled in. No one's really looking too racy. I think perhaps are they just biding their time? They've not got a huge amount of time left. They should really be looking at making the move sooner rather than later if they want to get onto that podium, which currently is occupied by Silveira.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they are sort of biding their time at the moment, but you're right. 30 minutes to go. This is kind of the time that you need to start making moves, starting to make your presence known to the driver ahead, starting to think about where the driver ahead is slower, where they're a little bit weaker, where you can sort of use their weaknesses to their advantage. Are they worse in traffic? Are they better in traffic than you? Do you have to make a move before you get to a big gaggle of cars? All of these things that you will be thinking about, especially with the top split drivers. Another thought, really interesting what you're saying about Freckleton. Maybe his one lap pace is a little bit better. I know that I've been in races where I've had this, I'm not saying this is the case, but I've had this amazing qualifying lap when I've gone like 6 cents quicker than I've ever gone before. And you get onto the front of the grid and you go, I really don't deserve to be here. And then it's a really horrible feeling of just sinking through the field. And it's so easy to start overdriving, starting to push the car, start to make mistakes. So Freckleton has done a really good job to still be fifth. So really, really good drive from him. Yes, he's lost some places, but as P5 is still a great result. And, this race is wide open, 12.5 minutes to go. Lots can happen.
Yep, and we've got Brabec here. He's in the closest battle in the field at the moment with Jason Anderson ahead. Brabec's currently up 7 positions. Can he add Anderson to his list of drivers he's got past today? It's not often in an ESS race you can make 7 overtakes and still only just be inside the top 10, but just shows you how big the LMP2 field is tonight. But again, for the most part this evening, certainly within class, we've seen relatively respectable racing. We've not seen anything too egregious. I mean, we're talking about Schettino's lunge into turn 3 as one of the most aggressive moves of the night. And yes, there was quite a late break, but in the grand scheme of things, it was a valid overtake. It's been a relatively safe race, aside from the one GTE trying to re-overtake Just into turn 4, which he's mentioned in chat. And it is a shame to see that happen. But I guess if you're going to take a positive out of it, if you're going to get killed out of any race, make it be a race where you're not on the pace necessarily. And Brabec, it looks like he might be going for a move here, although the inside is being defended by Anderson. But has Brabec got alongside enough? It's going to be close. Oh, there's a bit of contact there, and he's got the inside now for the chicane. How confident on the brakes is? He's going for a bit of a switch over, but this does mean Brabec's going to have the inside if the apex is surrendered, which it is by Anderson. That's nice clean driving. They've got Kerem Havers in the lead of the GTEs just ahead. So, bit of oversteer on exit there. That's for Anderson. That's going to affect his exit. Although he doesn't seem to be struggling for pace too much. And Anderson and Brabec are going to definitely get past Havers. Havers doing the right thing there. So we can see a lock up there from the 17 of Anderson. This is just slightly. Havers will be desperate for these guys to just push on because he's got a lead to defend. He may be 10 seconds clear of Arndt, but that is probably less than one mistake's worth of time. Brabec is ahead of Anderson, and if his pace earlier in the race is anything to go by, his fastest lap is nearly a quarter of a second quicker. Is his pace going to take him away now? As Cowra's looking to make the same move onto Wolmuth. Are we going to see a move into Copse? It does seem to have the straight line advantage. He's going to be brave. He's going to go for it. Are these drivers better than Hamilton and Verstappen? Certainly in the LMP2, it looks like they can get through safely, although Cowra hasn't got the move done yet. No, in fact, Wolmuth has shut the door nice and cleanly. Very safe driving from the two of them, but still assertive. Is Cowra going to be able to get the run down the hangar straight? He has been able to reset that car. It does look like he's got a reasonable run out of there. Is he going to be able to get alongside before we get to Stowe? He's trying it. Are we going to see the same move? He's going around the outside as well. He's further ahead than they were on the last lap where we saw Brabec go. And he's going to keep the inside line into the chicane. Although, again, late lunge from Wolmuth, but Cowra is so confident on the brakes, he's kept that position. And I think where we saw Cowra challenging second place earlier, I think Cowra is probably going to keep that position now. And yeah, it's been some very clean driving in LMP2. It's a shame we've seen the one or two incidents, but we've just seen two very nice textbook overtakes there.
We have indeed. Great driving by Cowra there to sort of not only outbrake his opponent once, but twice. It's really interesting, actually, that we're seeing a lot more moves around the outside of Stowe than the inside. I think everybody sort of has that racing driver inclination to defend the inside, but you almost defend from nothing, because then the driver just goes around the outside. You then have to brake more, bleed off more speed to make it through the apex, especially if you're racing side by side to not sort of drift wide. So I think sort of you need to almost be forcing the other drivers towards the inside and just carrying the extra speed around the outside. So Yeah, it's a really, I mean, you're right, great driving within the LMP2 field. I am noticing that Marcel van der Berg catching a little bit towards James Ebram there, so maybe we might have a little bit of a battle as we come into the final 8 minutes of this race. But it's about 1.6, 1.7 at the moment, so it's come down a little bit, but not too much. But I mean, we're talking about Havertz having one mistake, and he'll lose the lead, and he's got a 10-second gap. 1.6 is a lockup, and you might even lose the race. So watch out for that battle. I think that's our closest battle for the lead on track.
Yeah, I think most of us would probably prefer to be chasing than to be chased when it comes to the end stage of a race, certainly in terms of the mentality. If I'm James Ebram, I'm very nervous right now. Although, again, if you look at the sort of fastest lap data, they're running pretty similar times. And the most recent lap, actually, quite a disparity. Ebram's just done a 46.2, Van den Berg a 45.8. So if that 4/10 lap keeps happening, we've still got 7.5 minutes left. As soon as Berg is in the draft range, this could be a very spicy battle for the lead, and it's worth us keeping an eye just to see if Gerber can get close to Curbs for the overtake. We can go to them now and see where they are. You can see how close they are. Curbs in the 5. Oh dear! That could have ended badly. Gerber in the 20 there. That's going to give Curbs just a little bit of breathing space, but it can be made up with the boost, and that's not the only LMP2 these guys have got to clear now. In fact, it looks like Curbs might be slightly held up by Schettino. And is this going to give Gerber a run? I think Curbs can probably handle it a bit, but there's another LMP2. But is this one going to now affect Gerber? Is he going to be able to get onto the inside into the braking zone? That's the 17 there of Anderson. He's only got Schettino just behind him, so he doesn't want to give up too much time. And look how close Gerber is now. He's right in that slipstream. He's got 6.5 minutes to try and make this overtake. De Backer is 17 seconds down the road, so they don't have to worry about losing out too much time. As you can see there, Brabeck getting slightly in the way. Gerber's had to go on the outside. He's had to take that 1x off track. That's very unfortunate, but Brabeck will probably argue that with Anderson just a 1.5 seconds behind, he can't be giving up too much time to these drivers. And Curbs has got a bit more breathing space now, but this battle is bubbling under quite nicely.
And yeah, I think that Gerber did the best he could there. The LMP2 shouldn't be expected to just jump out of the way. I mean, they're in their own race, and the blue flag here is not like the blue flag that you see in single seaters. You don't have to dive out of the way and lose all your time. You just have to sort of make it safe to pass. It is the responsibility of the faster car, and it is a setback for Gerber. It is a quite a big setback. With 5 minutes to go, like losing a couple of tenths is huge, but Gerber has been quicker. He has been catching Corbs throughout this second stint of the race, so I don't for a second doubt that he'll be able to catch up again. And this might even sort of play to his advantage by just catching Corbs by surprise, sort of catching up and making that one sort of very decisive move. So watch out for that. But I mean, battles going up and down the field at the moment, Chris.
Yep, and we can see here, he's caught right up to Anderson. Anderson just slowly sliding back down the field after quite a promising mid-stage of the race, getting flashed by Schettino. I would imagine that is a warning to say, look, I'm going for the move here. We've seen Schettino is very confident on the brakes, but he did just clip the grass on the exit, but he may have spooked Anderson, who went slightly wide into Brooklands there. Is this going to allow Schettino to get a better launch out of Luffield? And we've seen a couple of moves into Copse already today. And we've seen as well, Schettino is not afraid to make a brave move. He's not quite close enough here. He's just going to hang around the back. Is he going to wait for the hanger straight, or are we going to see something very brave into Maggots and Beckett's? I think he's waiting for the sensible time. But you could not be much closer to the back of that LMP2 if you tried. Is he going to get a good exit as we come out of Beckett's into Chapel? It doesn't necessarily look like. He's got a massive run on him. We've also got Cowher on the back of Freckleton further up the field, so that's one to keep an eye on as well. He's going for a move. Anderson, I think, a little bit unsure about what to do there. Schettino much more assertive. He's got the outside line, so who's going to be braver onto the brakes as we come into 16? And at the moment it's Anderson, but he's going to have his line compromised into 17. And this is going to give Schettino a better run out of club into Abbey and Farm. But again, he's just a bit too far away now, and he's running out of time. He's probably only got 2, maybe 3 laps left to try and make that move. We've seen him make the late lunge into Village, but he's too far back to do it here. And now they have to reset and wait another lap. And now they've got the number 7 of Tobacco behind, who's not really necessarily in a battle. He has got his brother right behind. I guess, can you have team orders if they're siblings, or is it every man for themselves?
I think there's no team orders there. I think that it's probably, yeah, you really want to beat your brother there. So yeah, interesting rivalries up and down the field. Jason Anderson did what I was sort of saying that he needed to do, and just stick to the outside and, you know, not defend the inside and just carry the speed around the outside. But Anderson's lost a lot of time. This is really good for Nintendo here, just to catch up again. And, you know, we've seen him, you know, around the outside of Megas and Beckett. He is really quick. So, and he's so much quicker through cops. He's going to go down the inside. That's a great move by Nintendo there. Up the inside, through Maggots and Beckett's. Great. I mean, he's the only one to make a move in Maggots and Beckett's, and he's done it twice. So, amazing job here. So, really, I think he really caught Jason Anderson by surprise there. A little flash of lights, I think, confirms my theory there that, yeah, he's wasn't overly impressed with that move, Chris.
No, I think the pressure ended up telling, and that's the advantage sometimes of being a slightly more aggressive driver. And at the end of the day, we are all here to try and win. So I think as long as it's not untoward, it's you want to see the traditionalist Lorenzo, another Italian, very, very late on the brakes, but unlike Schettino, actually, he's... actually, that's quite a good recovery from Silvera. At one point, it looked like Lorenzo had that move absolutely in the bag, but he's recovered it. Sometimes you can make that late exit work out to turn 3. Dylan Freckleton, Benjamin Cowra not far behind. Lorenzo's going for another move here. I wonder if he was almost let through, because Silvera did look to be going quite slow there. I wonder if he felt like... I'm not sure why he'd have let him through, but I'm not really sure where that pace disparity came from. And it looks like we're probably going to have this lap and another left to go. Cowlarts is about 2/3 of a lap all the way round, so we'll have this lap, and the next lap will be the white flag lap as he comes round, unless he can somehow find a spare 30 seconds in a lap, which I think if he could do that, he'd have found it a while ago. P1 does seem to be wrapped up in all 3 fields now. Vandenberg has dropped back off James Ebram, who seems to have found a bit of pace, although their last laps were identical. And yep, we're going to come onto the white flag lap here. Cowlarts again. He's made a bit of a pattern here. He's pretty good at just pulling out these distances. I mean, we've got 48 seconds on the clock left, so I'd be very surprised if this isn't the white flag. But I mean, yeah, it looks like we're going to come here. And it looks like Dominique Englicht has had a crash, so we can go and see a replay of what's happened here. Does it involve this GTE?
Yes.
It does. Slightly odd place to go for the overtake. I'm just not sure they were particularly communicating with each other there. At least if you're going to damage your car, do it with a lap and a bit left to go, because you don't have to then trundle around for 60 minutes with a broken car. And it does just look like, aside from the Freckleton Cowra battle and Silvera Lorenzo, I think we're nearly done and dusted, except for, of course, Curbs Gerber. Gerber has caught right back up to Curbs, but he is rapidly running out of time. In fact, he's only got about 3 corners left to do. He's got Magnus and Beckett's, which would be very brave indeed. As we see, is he going to get a good exit to come out onto the hangar straight? Is he going to be able to use his boost effectively? Of course, we've said before, Curbs is going to have a slightly higher top speed. So is it worth trying to make a move on the outside of Stowe to try and get the inside into 16 and 17? These could not be much closer if they tried. Gerber's going to the outside. How much traction does he have around the outside of that corner? He is alongside as it stands. And now how brave can he be on the brakes into 16? And there is a GT in the way. That's number 2. We have no idea. I think Curbs is going to have squeaked it over the line. And I think Gerber will be wondering what on earth would it have been if not for that GTE. That's really unfortunate. It's not ruined the battle, but it certainly got involved in the accident. And we've got a 3-way here as well. Silvera, Freckleton, Cowra. So Silvera's really dropped down. In fact, he may be running out of fuel. Freckleton's got through. Cowra might be getting through as well. So Freckleton has recovered pretty nicely here. He's back up into 4th. Cowra's into 5th. Silvera's lost a few places on this last lap. Galasso Lorenzo, he's up to third, so I wonder if he just run out of fuel. He's a lot of them are abandoning it just on the line, so they must have been tight. And poor Kerem Havers, I mean, he'll get to say he's lapped the entire field, but he's going to be out on his own for a while here. Everyone else is pretty much done and dusted. Kerem Havers hadn't been overtaken by Simon Cowell-Larks before the end of the race. I don't know about you, Seb, but that was me. If I was in the lead and I knew that I wasn't going to be overtaken by P2, I would have just pulled over and had an early night.
Yeah, I think I'd have been trying to sort of see on my relative where Carlos was, just go, can you just pass me again, because I really don't want to have to do this final lap. But maybe he's just enjoying driving this car so much that one more lap just doesn't seem like too much of an effort. I think he'll actually be one of the final drivers to cross the line. Yes, he will be. What incredible battle there for P2 in the LMP1 here. Jan Korbs in Alexander Gerber. Shame for Gerber with the I think that was P2 in the GTE class, just sort of unintentionally getting involved, but you can't really blame the GTE, and I don't think that Gerber could in good faith, because, you know, where was the GTE meant to go? It's a shame, but, you know, if you're leaving it to the last lap, things can happen. And there you go. There's Harris coming across the line, final car across the line, and he's blowing his engine up immediately. That's maybe he was enjoying driving that Porsche as much as we thought.
Well, you know, maybe it's just a chance for Kerem to get some screen time for us to praise him for. I mean, really, he made that look absolutely easy. Bearing in mind, Dominic Arndt in second has got more than 6,000 rating. For Havers to be that comfortable in front of him just shows you the quality of his driving today and just how well he did. And we didn't really get much of a chance to cover him, but that's because he was doing such a stellar job out front and there wasn't really anything to discuss because it was just a normal day at the office for Havers. And it's an excellent victory for him. I believe that is everyone crossed the line, so we can hopefully bring you the results in a few moments once they have officially come through, and we can walk you through exactly what's happened. And we'll start with the LMP1 field when that comes up. So you can see there a familiar sight on the top step of the podium. That's Simon Cowell-Larks yet again siding his way through traffic, although by his standards only a 6-second gap back to second. That's quite close indeed. Jan Korbs in second, managing to hold off Alexander Gerber, who I think acquitted himself incredibly well this afternoon to finish P3. We've got the De Backer brothers, Neil beating Jim for bragging rights in the De Backer household today. Fourth and fifth, pretty high quality for them. Dominique Englicht and Luke Santos having pretty quiet races in sixth and seventh, although as you can see from the classifications there, Santos very nearly able to get past Englicht at the end, but not to be for him today. He rounds out our LMP1 field in P7. And James Ebram takes a well-deserved victory for the LMP2 field. I don't think he would have been expecting that 20 minutes into the race, but you know, it doesn't matter where you are 20 minutes into the race, 60 minutes into the race. James Ebram, he takes the win. Marcel Vandenberg, he is in second, just 2 seconds behind. Well, possibly disappointed with a P2 because he's so close to P1, but equally he did make up 2 places, and that's a good result for him. Galasso Lorenzo managing to pit Felipe Silveira to the final step of the podium. Dylan Freckleton, Benjamin Cower in fourth and fifth, both managing to get past Silveira as well, who finished sixth, and you can see how close they were in the end. Maximilian Wolmuth, pretty quiet race for him. He's down into seventh, followed by our biggest gainer of the entire race, Marian Brabeck, in eighth, who started 16th. A great race for him, with Pietro Schettino having probably the overtakes of the race in P9. Jason Anderson rounding out the top 10. And then following on, we've got Jan Vitvar and Bogdan Moldovan, who'll be ruining that pit stop because you can see he was stopped for a minute. He would have won this race were it not for that damage. They all finished on the lead lap, along with Jory Mason and Jack Colville in 13th and 14th. And then further down the classification, we've got Nick Burke, Brad Coleman, Joost Bouwmeester, Alex Everett, Ayrton Hurst, and Claudio Greco, who did not start the race. And then our not particularly big GTE field. That doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. Havers did not lap the entire field. He was only 10 seconds ahead of Arndt, but a very good win for him nonetheless, with Arndt in second. Ruben Leitao, who I don't think we've mentioned once so far, having a very quiet race, finishing P3, a well-deserved podium for him. Marco Ricci, he is the winner of the non-Porsche GTE Cup. He was going to have to do very badly to not win that, as he was the only one. Alejandro Soto, who managed to last longer on track before pitting than anyone else, brings it home in P5, followed by Gilles Bruxer, Greg Murray, Michael Etienne, and Neo Leclerc, who was 9 laps down. And let's have a look at how this has affected the standings. Seb, if you'd like to take us through the top 10s.
Will do indeed. So Simon Cowlitz, you're still your leader after an incredible season so far. Jan Kort in second with Jim De Backer in third, just ahead of his brother Neil De Backer in fourth. Jake Carey, a name that we haven't Santos in sixth. Dominic Enterlicht in seventh was in this race today, but had that in with the GTE in the closing stage. In P8 we have Daniel Piso. In ninth we have Pascal Nellis, and in 10th Amber Hawkins. Moving on to your LMP2 field, Owen Carroll is your leader. Didn't see him today. Jus Braumeister in second. We did see him, but he was involved in that incident to the loop. Stuart Bickley in third with Rue Kraus in fourth. Michael Romanidis in fifth with Nick Burke in sixth. Claudio Greco in seventh with Luca Pape in eighth. Marcus Deck in ninth, and Fraser Williamson in 10th. Moving on to your GTE standings, Jerome Charvet is leading the way with Roman van der Leeuwen right behind. Two names that we haven't seen today, which is really interesting. We've seen them in most of the races today. Jorge Diaz, another name that we haven't seen, in third, with Bachoa in fourth. Jean-Luc Denayer in fifth, again didn't see him. Marco Ricci, the only Corvette driver, in sixth, jumped 12 positions today. Sven Haas in seventh, Felipe Mea in 8th, Anton Verdoev in 9th, and William Braviera in 10th. So really interesting championship standings there.
Yeah, I would say aside from Simon Cowlitz, there is a lot to play for, and I don't know about you how you found that today, Seb, but I thought that was an impressively clean race, bar the incident that took out Jus Baumeister. And just to put a little bit of need in, I wonder if that's because Bickley and Simner weren't here. Maybe that encouraged everyone else to be a bit cleaner for once. But of course, we hope to see back. Simner was celebrating his wedding anniversary today. That's why we've not seen him. So congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Simner. I hope you've had a lovely evening. And Seb, how did you find that race? Was it? That was quite a good one to follow, I felt.
It had everything. It had strategy. It had really clean racing. No major incidents. We didn't see. Well, no, we did. We saw racing in GTE, LMP2, and LMP1. So whatever your favourite class is, you've got to see some really clean racing. I think we saw some really aggressive racing as well, but not overly aggressive. It was just really, really good-natured racing, and that's exactly why we love iRacing. It's why we want to race at the ESS, and it's why we love to watch it, because when a race goes like this, I mean, I'm sure all of the drivers, maybe apart from Jus Braumeister, I don't think he'll be so happy, but I think most of these drivers will come away with a massive smile on their face, because that was just a really nice, clean, good-natured race.
It certainly was, and you can catch us again next Thursday for the ESS. We will be a very different challenge. We'll be at Imola next Thursday, so we'll be here same time, same place at 9 o'clock. But before that, of course, don't forget, if you want to catch up on some F3 action, Total Sim Sports will be back on Tuesday, same time, and we will be bringing you I believe that will be round 9. It's gone so quickly this season, and we will be at Nürburgring, and that will be an interesting one. And it'll be interesting to see with Patrick Colo really extending that lead at the top of his championship standings there. Be interesting to see what he manages to do that. And James has just helpfully pointed out in chat that we often get the Cullen commentator to try and sum up the race in one word. Seb, can you do a better job of it than I can?
Oh God, you put me on the spot here. I'm going to go for. Yes, no. Thank you, producer. No, I can't do it. I'm going to go for clean. It was clean.
Clean's a good shout, but you've done what I always do, and you've dressed up that one word with another 3,000 either side of it. It takes about 12 races to get into the swing of that, I tend to find. But thank you, everyone, for watching tonight. We appreciate you following. If you want to join us in our Discord and discuss the races, there is a link down in the description, along with links to our Twitter, Twitch, our YouTube as well. Tonight was brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier motorsport simulator. Thanks as well to producer Sean Cranleigh-Swash and my co-commentator Seb Bosher-Williams. I've been Chris Rowlands, and have a lovely weekend. See you soon.